Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and in this episode we are back on my under tray panel thing. Alright guys, welcome back, and for those of you watching last week, you will have seen that I was working on a panel to cover over the dry sump oil hose that is in the wheel arch, and also goes underneath and protects my master cylinders for the brakes and clutch, etc. If you missed it, I'll put a link up above so you can catch up, and if you aren't subscribed, please think about subscribing. It does help us out. Now, just go over a couple of the major questions that were raised about this panel that I built here. A lot of people were saying that the tyre clears this at full droop, but does it get closer when it goes up into bump? And it doesn't. Actually, at full droop is the only time it is actually even remotely close. Full droop at full lock, it's still got about 10 mil gap in there, and as it goes higher, there's actually more clearance. That's basically the worst point, is at full droop. It actually will rub the body of the original car inside at full bump, but at full bump, at full lock, it will rub just with those wheels and tires. It hit full bump on the inside of a corner. It just you can't physically do that in the car, so I'm not really worried about that. So getting into the jobs for today, let's get back underneath and have a look at where I left off. Alright, so getting back underneath the car now. Another thing that was brought up in last week's video, I did mention it when I first got the wheels fitted. Obviously, I need to mention it every time anybody sees the wheels. Yes, this wheel is on backwards. I am fully aware of that. I only have two tyres at the moment, only on the one side of the car, and they're set up for opposite sides. So, yeah, this one's on the wrong way around, but it will go on the other side when I get more tyres. I am definitely not concerned about that, and yes, I know which way tyres are supposed to go. All right, the panel that I built for underneath the car is here. So this is what I built up last week. It's only a rough shape for the time being, but it fits in here pretty nicely. Covers up what it needs to cover up. So now I need to do a bit more refinement and work out how to connect it up at the front, and how I'm going to fix it actually to the car. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the fit down this side now. I have to do something about the back edge of the oil line. You can see there it's all open, and I need to do something about sealing that off. I've joined it up to this front panel now, so it's all one piece in through here, just tacked together. And I still got to put a cover in here in the front corner, just so it sort of seals in that area for most of the stuff coming up off of the road. Coming along the side, next to the cat here, I actually cut out the panel and bent it and gave it a bit more clearance, just so that it will give a bit of space from the cat. There will be heat shielding on the inside of this panel, and this panel is a heat shield in itself, so it will protect that a bit from the heat from the cat. So let's make a couple of little cardboard templates up and see if we can fill in some of those panels. So you can see here I've tacked in this front little piece. It's not perfect, but it's just tacked into place for now. And if we come over this side, you can also see that I've finished putting in this whole sort of cover all the way over the pipe, all the way around, and sort of made this cover quite an integrated piece. I am very happy. So now it's time to take it off and have a look at it on the bench. All right, so that has made quite a big, sort of pretty awkward shaped panel, but I think it's going to do the job quite well. Now, there's a little bit of tweaking I'm going to have to do to get this all exactly the way I want it and tidy it up and make it one cohesive piece, because at the moment it's a bit of a hodgepodge. But I've got it in a place now where I can start actually sort of blending it together, weld it all up, and see how it actually flows as a one nice big cover. And some of you may have noticed in the last few videos, I actually have just upgraded my welders. Basically, I've gone up to this Weldforce MIG. This is a MIG TIG stick. It's not a cheap machine. It's a very good European-made 250 amp machine. So it's obviously a lot bigger, but the control I have is fantastic. It basically, this is designed with advanced thermal control. So I didn't know what that was, but basically if you, I picture it a bit like a carby for a car. So most welders seem to have sort of basically a tune that's good for the whole range of welding. So it can do really thick stuff and really thin stuff, but it's generally, the tune is aimed for the middle ground. Whereas this pretty much has like sort of two tunes in it, if you like. It's got the regular tune for the bigger stuff, and then anything under 1.5 mil, it's got this much more refined control, this advanced thermal control to control the lower end. The control is really good, and the settings are just so simple. With the Synergic settings, I've just set my wire, my gas type, and then all I need to do is you can actually see the picture of the weld here. I can work out whether I want more or less wire, basically. I like to just leave it on 0. And then all I have to do is just turn this dial and go, okay, yeah, I'm welding 0.9 mil steel. It's done. It's all ready to go. It's so easy, and it welds really nicely. I did want to try it out a bit first and just see how they go. And these guys do the full range, but yeah, I'm really happy with this machine. It really makes a big difference to doing particularly thin stuff. This is aimed particularly at welding thin sheet steel like automotive stuff, and yeah, I'm happy. So let's tune it in and start putting this thing all together into one cohesive piece. We'll see how it goes. All right, it's definitely not the prettiest, but I have my whole shield here all done. I've got my divot in the side for where the cat sort of sits, just giving myself a little bit more spacing. There is, as I said, there's going to be heat shielding on it, but that is the basic shape. So let's put it back in the car and make sure, now that I've welded it all up, it still fits. All right, it's another brisk morning here, and I'm getting back into it again. And I just thought I've switched back to my lapel mic. So I took some of your suggestions from last week. I listened to the first half of this video, which is with the shotgun mic, and it sounds horrible. So I switched back. I took some of the suggestions. I used a bunch of heat shrink on the lead coming out of my pocket. So hopefully there's multiple layers there. It should protect the cable for that length. And I've done some on the top of the mic as well. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully this sound is much better than the first half of the video. But let's get stuck back in. All right, so this panel is now looking good. I'm happy with how it all fits and how it's all finished up. We need to work out mounting. And what I'm looking at is I'm trying to avoid having bolting places directly in the face of where the wheel's spinning and be flicking water and grot onto it. So it's going to corrode them and then make them really difficult to undo again after some time on the road. So what my plan is I want to build a two-step bolting system for these panels. So this front panel here, I'm happy bolting it to the internal structure of the car because it's not in the direct path of the wheels. It might get a little bit of stuff on it, but it's not too bad. I'm sort of happy enough that that's mostly out of the way. It's really directly where the wheels are spinning that are going to throw most stuff right here all the time. I want to make it 90 degrees to that inside through an access hole through here. Now this top plate that covers the oil tank, I currently have just a self-tapping screw holding it in here. I don't want that screw there because that's really vulnerable. So my idea is I'm going to make it so this bottom cover bolts on first, then this dry sump oil tank cover can actually slot into the bottom cover and be bolted up the top so that it's held securely without actually having a screw that's in direct flinging distance of the tyre. So let's start working on this top corner mounting point first, and then we can worry about the others later. All right, this is very time consuming, but I've got my little bolt inside there that holds this panel on, so I can weld up this hole over here now, and we will no longer need that. These two are bolted in down in the end here with some captive nuts. We've got, what I did on the sides here is I made some little tabs that I welded captive nuts into and bent at a 45-degree angle, or sorry, a 90-degree angle, and welded them to the body so I can bolt through onto those tabs. Bolts on the back, and another bolt on this side, and I've just got to do one more under here. Just need one more just up in here. I also went through and I cut and flared this edge and welded it together just so there is no sharp edge that's going to touch this pipe and wear it away. Anything that touches is all nice and rounded and curved and out of the way. So the next thing we need to do is with this panel over here that's covering the dry sump oil tank, I need to make it so that it clips in behind this lower panel here. So what I've got is I just grabbed this little offcut of 1.6mm, which has got a nice little taper on it. And I'm going to make that as a tongue that goes in behind this panel here, and I'll make a slot in the panel in the back that we can basically weld to this top panel, and it slides in nicely and locks this in nice and tight. That's the plan. Let's start welding up a little tab. All right, my tray is done. All the mounting points are done. It is exactly what I need to fit on the car. It looks a bit odd, but it does the job exactly the way I want it. Now, the last thing I need to do is put some drainage in this. Now, I could just drill some holes, but as some people have mentioned, it's not good for aero. And the way I think I want to do it is I actually want to put some louvers into the bottom of this. I could potentially put it into the bead roller, but I don't think it wouldn't fit in my bead roller because of this edge on it. So I'm going to make a die and I'm going to press in some louvers into this. I've never done it before, but I think it's something interesting to do is to make up a die. I'm only going to go shallow louvers. I have here some 6mm steel plate. So I'll take you through now and show you how I make a die, and we'll just see if it works. All right, so I just made up a very quick, rough die to make up some louvers. So as you saw, I used the plasma cutter to cut out this 6mm plate, and I cut out this little curved bit that I ground around to give a bit of shape, and I've just sort of tacked it onto a piece of angle iron. That is the top part of my die, and the bottom part is the other piece that I cut out. I put a straight edge welded onto that, so I've got a perfect slot where my die can punch in through a piece of metal. So my plan now is to give it a go. I've got a piece of scrap here. I'm just going to cut a slot in it, the size of this, and then we're going to try and see what sort of louver we can press out of this shape. Well, that is exactly what I was looking for. So there is, it's a little bit rough where I cut it. I haven't cleaned up the edges, but you can sort of see there that that is a nice, clean, neat louver. It's only going under the car, so it's a lot of work for not a lot of return. The issue is going to be though, is can I fit the panel that I built into my press? That's where the challenge is going to be. All right, so I just welded in a couple of very little pins into my die and drilled a couple of holes so that basically I've got an alignment. So I can stick it, I can push this plate underneath my panel I want to use. These alignment pins are just going to make it much easier to get lined up, because I found when I was trying to press it and just guess, because you can't see through the panel, it's very difficult to work out where to line it up. So now I'll be able to stick this plate underneath my panel, these pins will stick through, and then I'll be able to line up this plate over the top. All right, I have one louver done. So that was a lot more messing around than I thought it was going to be, but I have a louver. I had to play around with my pins. I had to make my pins longer, and then I've actually got a combination of bits. I've got my my little die press that goes over the top, and then I've got another piece of angle. Because I can't press directly on the middle of this die because of the press, because I can't get my piece directly in the center of the press, it's got to be offset. So I've got a this other bar that's also got corresponding holes in it, so I can sit it over the top of the pin, still press, and it'll press down sort of like that, and then press the thing in. Anyway, that's one down, 9 more to go. Let's get them done. All right, and we're done. I have my louvered bottom. So we've got my exits, they're facing backwards. So obviously as we're driving, stuff can exit, but more than likely not enter my cover. And look, they're not the most even. They're not bad, but they're not perfect. If I spent a bit more time making the die, getting that, absolutely Mickey Mouse, I think it would make a better result. But that still, to me, looks pretty good for something that's going underneath the car that nobody's going to see. It's going to be covered in stone deadening and stuff like that. So or stone guard, I should say. So that's all the time we have. So I think that means it's time for fun facts with Mrs. Chef.
Hi guys, by the end of 1952, Ferrari had refined its chassis and engine development enough to settle on a design that they would stick with for the next 14 years. This culminated in the 250. Now most of these cars used the short wheelbase of 2400 millimeters or the long wheelbase chassis of 2600 millimeters. They all shared the 3-litre Colombo V12 with the name coming from the capacity of one cylinder. The 250S prototype used the Tubosocca tubular trellis frame, while the later cars used a more conventional chassis. Now the first 250S Berlinetta prototype was actually entered into the Mille Miglia in 1952. Their main rival was the Mercedes W194, but the 230 horsepower Ferrari more than made up for it on the curves and the hills to win the race.
That was a lot of time spent making a cover, but that's what this sort of stuff is. It's a lot of time fabricating. I learnt a lot building that first die to make the louvers. It's not the greatest, but they're more than adequate for underneath the car. Much better than just putting holes in it. It's going to make sure that it doesn't get full of junk, and anything it does can come out.
And it's home built.
That's right. It may not be perfect, but it's home built. Anyway, that's it for this week, and hopefully I've got some more interesting stuff to tackle next week. I've got a couple of ideas.
Interesting. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and if you'd like to follow Jeff a day earlier than the videos are released for the rest of the world without ads, follow him on Patreon.
Yes, and also Instagram and Facebook, Homebuilt by Jeff there. Gives you tips on what's coming up. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Hey, guys. By the end of Hey, guys. For the engine development and... No. Oh, 2 glasses of wine. Jeez. Tubosocca. Tubular frame.
Yes.
W194. But the...